Should be here very shortly. Mitchell's coming, and he that might be Mitchell. Oh no, it's not. When Mitchell gets here, even if he doesn't get here on time, we'll start class, and then we'll do our a lab after that. That's when everybody. Yeah.
I couldn't do my teacher eats homework.
You can do which one? The homework in general?
Yeah, like the 9th homework because I couldn't do like anything you work.
Oh, because I excused all of that for all of you. Because remember I said you were coming in. So since you were coming in as a new student, I was just going to excuse all of first quarter, not even worry about grading it. Just let it go. So you don't have to worry about anything.
So the whole thing including lesson 10?
Yeah, it's all good. You don't have to worry about it. You're going to start your grades at lesson 11. So you're all good.
Now, my mom's like,
yeah.
yo, what? I was like sitting in the computer for 2 hours and mom's like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I can't do anything.
Never do that. Never stay at the computer for 2 hours. That's crazy. Okay, why isn't this working? Hello, iPad. It's asleep or something. Let's see here. What are you doing?
First question is, does pineapple go with pizza?
That's right.
And I said no.
You said no?
I don't like pineapple.
There you go. I just use it to I use that one to check behind myself and make sure I've given you credit for your binder work. That's my reminder to think back, like have they answered questions in class or whatever.
How does pineapple do anything with it?
It doesn't. That's just like I said, those questions there, like the first question is always going to be something that is about nothing in particular. It's just my cue to remember to grade you for having done your work. You're participating, so I know you did it. Oh wow, this is like totally not working. Maybe if I unplug it. Come on. It is not being cool. It's like stuck. If I can reboot it. Yes. Oh my. It does not want to play. There it goes. Maybe. Maybe not. All right, but we're just gonna let it be then. We'll just record class without video of you guys because it's gonna be dicky, so that's fine. Whatever. Don't need video of the audience, I guess. Alrighty. I'm not sure if Mitchell is gonna come today or not. I'm gonna give him just a few more minutes to get himself here. Should be one more for this class, and then for lab, it should be everybody except for Alex and Bailey and Lily. So this is your Q2. If you open your binder up to your page there, that's not close, that not punched.
Oh yeah, I was trying to make up for my previous lesson, so I did the contour one.
You did the what?
The contour one, something. I just
You're fine. You don't have to do any of that stuff up to now. We're just gonna.
Plus I'm bored.
You're bored. Shoot, your mom needs to give you more work. All right, so go to the very last page. Yep, and we'll open this up here. And this is starts lesson 11. So this is 11 through 16. Yeah, there's a couple like that. I'm gonna explain that in a second, but
I also think yesterday I saw
I overdressed.
you looking good, man. No, you did not overdress. That's perfect. I love it. That is absolutely perfect. This is Yusuf, and he's new. You missed him last week. Last week was his first week.
All right.
So, okay. Here's what I'm doing.
I didn't know about Tinkerbell.
You're good.
How it's so much funky.
You know what? You know what you can do when you get home? You can take a picture for me then, since you weren't here to
Great. I still get points, right?
yes, I'll let you do that since you were here and you didn't have time to even
Can you check
like
how much brownie points you have?
well, it's not brownie points for Tinker Day. It's actually extra credit on your midterm.
Oh my
It's a big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal.
Oh, so if I finally made a mistake, so I get extra points.
if those are brownie points, yes. And it'll be in your weekly email. It'll tell you exactly how many you have in your weekly email. Because I tally them up every week.
Seems like juniors are losing. Like,
Usually, I tell you why. It's not your fault. It's that you don't have Alex, who finds every mistake on the planet. And I mean every mistake. No, he's just like he's ridiculous. There is a thread in the forum. You can just go to the forum, or you can tell me in class, or you can go to the thread in the forum and just comment on it and be like, found a mistake, here it is. All right, so open your binder up, Mitch. I'm gonna give you your Q2. So some of these are hole punched on the wrong side, and I will tell you why. So usually I would go to like Office Depot and have them all printed for us, but
Oh, everything's taken out. I didn't do that. Oh,
we're gonna put this at the very end, so it won't matter. The very, very back, all the way, very back. There you go. So anyway, I usually go to Office Depot to have stuff printed, but I found a printer online, like a commercial printer. I bought it because I found it for a really good price. So this is the first time I've run off big copies on it, and it did some weird stuff with where the hole punches ended up. So I have to kind of figure that part out because it's acting a little weird.
And I also forgot.
Are you missing this? Either of you missing this? You're not. Okay. What were you gonna say? Oh, it's fine. So where you do that is you do it.
Before the lesson.
Yeah, there's one like this. Those are the ones you do, and you don't have to do that. That's just for fun. That's
And I
just if
also
you want
don't
to.
know what take a dip.
What? Where?
Take a dip.
Oh, take a dip. Okay, so right with Rico. So like right here, let's say something. It's just a different. He's gonna have a different theme every week, and you color him based on the theme.
Okay,
So like take a dip was a theme.
probably
Like go swimming. It means go swimming. Yeah.
so it's probably worse than before.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm gonna give you all a little tip for life. This is amazing. So there is a website called GovDeals, G-O-V, like government, because that's what it is, GovDeals. And if you go to GovDeals,
I actually searched governmentdeals.com. It's like
Yep.
your computer's gonna get hacked.
yeah, no, it's govdeals.com. And so I was telling him his mom about it last week. So I went to I go every so often and just look. Basically what it is it's all the stuff that government businesses or whatever have been using and they're ready to get rid of it. So for example, copiers. My copier that I got came from a community college that was getting new copiers. There's something wrong with it. And I looked at them online and they're like $2,000 and I got it for $250. But I had to drive to Americus, which was a long drive. But now we have our own copier. So that's amazing. I don't have to go and pay for the copies anymore at like Kinko's. I still have to buy paper and toner, but I don't have to go all the way out there and let them run it or on Office Depot or whatever. So that's cool. But if you're looking for cars or TVs or cameras, or if you can imagine it, they have it.
Or MacBooks.
Everything.
MacBooks.
Yeah, they have everything.
government
Laptops.
MacBooks, I don't think they'd sell those.
Whatever it is they've used, if they have it, they get and they're upgrading. It's there. Projectors, like the really nice kind, that you can use, like the LCD projectors, those all of that. It's amazing. Super amazing. So we're gonna do our lesson today, but as I explained to your mom, and I was reminding Yusuf this morning, we're gonna take all of first quarter for the both of you, and we're just gonna wipe it. So it's going to be excused, which means it's not going to count against you and it's not going to count for you. It's just kind of gone as far as grades go. So that means grades start for you guys for lesson 11 stuff. So there is a test coming up this week, but it's not, you don't have one. I didn't even issue one for you guys.
Wait, so do I still have to do my Bible?
I would start for lesson 11 for sure. And you probably want to go through and look at, we are on 10 today. But if you didn't do, like, I think you had issues with 8 or 7 or 8 because I put printed something wrong in there. You probably want to go through it and have a look because you do have midterms and finals coming up. And I will make sure though, like I've said before, you're always going to know what's going to be on your tests. So you'll know what to study for, even if you weren't here, you were absent, or if it's something from first quarter. So you'll be good. It'll be good to go. Cool.
Miss Danny,
Yep.
there's a mistake here.
You found another one where?
Look, see, it says junior lab, upper elementary to middle school.
Yeah.
Middle school, high school. And somewhere right here, I saw it too. Like here somewhere, yeah. Upper elementary, middle school, high school. But here it's like middle school, high school, middle school, high school.
Oh, yes, because the lesson's the same for both of you. It's like welcome to How Did You class for everybody.
But those upper
Yeah, no, that one's the same. Good try though. All right, so once again, happy Tinker Day. Yay, I'm keeping track of who dressed up. This is epic. I'm gonna get pictures of everybody, be sure. And we all got donuts, so I'll put them on the Holland's page and everybody will be very excited. No worries, you've got yellow at home. You can always send me the picture and I have to post the picture on the forum page. Did you find the forum? Okay, so
I thought it was one for adults.
no, if you go to Facebook's for adults, but if you go to the website and you go under the thing that says Class Connect, and you click there, there's a page that says all the links, and you follow that, and there's a forum, and there's like a bunch of different groups in the forum. There's lab groups, and there's one that says like all class basically, and that's where you'll find the Tinker Day post. It's right in there, and
Which lab is he
put
in?
pictures there.
I mean, he's good.
So he's not right now. We can put him wherever today, and then we're gonna shuffle lab groups next quarter, which is what we always do. So next week you'll have all new lab groups.
Can I do? I don't have 4 people instead of 3.
Well, right now, Piper and Drew, I think are the only ones in their group. We're gonna have to look at how the groups, I may actually split you. I may actually, yeah, that's right, because that's what it was. I may have to split you guys into 2 groups today because today's lab's a little different and we really don't need 4 groups. So maybe into 2 groups. All right, so here's a lesson. We're gonna go over the lesson anyway, even though you're not gonna be tested on it or whatever. It's still important for you to know the material. So this is lesson 10. And yes, sir.
I thought it was binder work for lesson 10.
If I were you, I would at least look over it, if not do it, because like I said, there is a midterm and a final, and some of that might show up. So it's good I'll tell you if it's gonna show up, so you'll know to go back and look. Right.
Big text.
Yeah, those are big tests, but
Text.
dun dun dun, those are come in and take it on paper tests. Those aren't like tests on the computer. All right, so we're gonna do earth surface processes and groundwater today. We are talking about more water, lots of water. So water underground. And if you've ever, used a well, there's water underground or been anywhere that uses well water. We don't see it, so sometimes we don't think about it. But there's a lot of water underground. So let's see who can get these. I do have coins still. So what do you call, so the blank is all the water in and on Earth's crust. Does anybody know the word for that one? What would go under this little block here? The blank is,
Can't see anything.
you can't see that. The blank is all the water in and on Earth's crust.
Water.
Water. So we're looking for
Groundwater.
hydrosphere. So that's what we call the hydrosphere. So, we're going to have a geosphere, and that's Earth, and then we're going to have an atmosphere, right? And that's going to be like the air and stuff or gases around Earth, and we have a hydrosphere too. So what is made up of ocean? So these are going to be percentages. What percent of our hydrosphere is made up of salt water or ocean water? And then what percent is made up of fresh water that's contained in land masses or in glaciers?
80%.
Freshwater, 3%.
You say 3, what do you say?
Salt water probably over 80%.
Salt water 80%? Okay, let's see how close you were. Because you answered, you get a coin. That's how it works. Even if your answer's not right, you still get a coin because you're participating. And do you know what the coins are for?
Oh, the candy.
Yes, you got it. All right, so you were very close, 97, and you got the 3 right.
I saw in the book.
Spot on, good, and you remembered it. Very good, very good. All right, and that's one that you should also, do you see the little Rico there? That means you should kind of remember this one. Yeah, just remember it for life. It's an important one to know. Even if you forget the numbers, like as an adult, if you know that almost all of the water is salt water, that's going to help you out for other stuff in the future. So how does groundwater move around? So we've got precipitation, and that allows for soaking or trickling of water into the ground to become groundwater. So then we have what we call it's a substrate porosity. So this is the definition of this word. Substrate porosity depends on grain size and grain sorting, with well-sorted grains having greater porosity. So what's porosity, first of all?
What's that how thick the surface is?
Kind of, yep, very similar to that. So what's a pore? You know what a pore is? Like on your face or your skin, you know what pores are?
Yeah, those four.
Yeah, like the little holes. Okay. So do you know what, like if I said a sponge was porous, what would that mean?
It has lots of pores.
Yeah, it has lots of pores, lots of little holes and spaces in it. So that's what we're talking about here is how much space there is in between the grains of soil that are making up a particular piece of earth. So substrate is just like another word for saying like what's there at the ground. What kind of earth are we dealing with? Rock, sand, whatever. So what we're talking about in this case is the storage of groundwater, and it's going to depend on how big the pores are, and therefore how much space is between them. So if you think about that for a minute, if you've got big pores and you've got small pores, and you've got big grains and you got large grains, do you think big grains go with big pores or small pores? And do you think small grains go with big pores or small pores? What do you think? Think about spaces.
Small, big.
Small would make small and big would make big. Is that what you think? Or what do you guys think? What do you think?
I don't know. Big people.
Okay, so think about it this way. If you're pouring sand into a glass or marbles into a glass, which is going to create more pores, more space?
Marbles.
The marbles, right, because they're bigger grains, just like you said. You guys are spot on there. The bigger grains, the bigger pores. So you're going to have more water space where there's bigger grains.
And also gonna have more coins.
Yes. So this is a definition. What is the tendency of a material to let water pass through it? Do you know what we call that?
So you said it again.
So what's the tendency of a material to let water pass through? It's a definition. When we talk about cells in biology, we say they have a semi-blank, this kind of membrane, which means some things can pass through it. And you might say, let's see, if you don't want water to leak into your boat, you don't want to build the bottom of it out of like, oh, I don't know, fabric, because water will go through fabric. So what we're talking about is permeability. So permeability, that's how well water, or in this case, it doesn't have to be water necessarily. It can refer to other liquids, but water, but mostly can pass through it. Now, cells have what we call a semi-permeable membrane, which means they let certain substances through and not other substances. They have the ability to almost pick and choose based on their membrane. And so permeability is your tendency to let water pass through. And that's a RICO one too. That's a word to remember, because that's going to come up in other types of science and in other areas of your life. Permeability is the tendency to let water pass through. So it could be a membrane, it could be a type of soil, it could be a type of rock. So based on the word permeability, we have two words here. So permeability is the tendency, right? And we have two words that go with it. One of them describes a material that water can pass through, and the other describes a material that water cannot pass through. And they come from the word permeability. You want to guess what they are?
Unpermeable.
You're very close. You're very close. What'd you say? Repermeability. So permeable is going to be letting water through, and not because that means like to do again. What is no? You know what no? What a root for no would be? It's going to be impermeable. Impermeable. That's no. Not permeable. Right? Not permeable. So permeable lets water pass through, and impermeable does not let water pass through. And the permeability is the tendency. Oh, you're fine. So then these aquifers, all right, we're going to talk a little bit about aquifers and springs and whatnot. So aquifers are these underground areas of what we're going to call permeable sediment. Sometimes it's cracked up rock. Sometimes it's just rock with a lot of space in it. And that's where water can be held underground. Now, sometimes an aquifer can be small, like, oh, I don't know, the size of your backyard. And sometimes it can be huge. There's one in the Midwestern United States that goes from like Illinois and whatnot, like all the way down to the Gulf almost. It's massive. Huge aquifer, gallons and gallons and gallons of water, right? So that's, if you have,
Like an ocean.
It's like an ocean, yeah. It's like an ocean underwater. So that's how, if you have a well and you're trying to get down into the ground to get water, that's where you're going to get it from, is an aquifer, right? You have to have an aquifer to get water out. So we've got different zones when we're talking about groundwater. So this first one says it's an area beneath Earth's surface where groundwater fills all porous spaces. So now we're talking about soil. You can envision soil, and we've got some stuff on the top, and we have some other layers below it. So the one on the top, we call it the saturated zone. And basically that is the area where you're going to have groundwater filling up all of the spaces. Okay. And then we also have a water table above the saturated zone. And then very last, we have an unsaturated zone. Okay. So these are written kind of backwards if you think about the way soil is. So at the tippy top, you've got your unsaturated zone. This can take more water. Rain on me, I want the water, right? And of course, grain size is going to matter a lot, right? As to how much water it can take. Because we were saying if it has small grains, it's going to have a harder time soaking up more water than if it has big, large grains. So you've got this unsaturated zone and it's moist there, and you've got air occupying your pore spaces. What makes air?
Moist,
Yeah, moist. Everybody hates that word.
unsaturated.
It's, yeah, because saturated you mean like it can't hold any more water. Moist means it's a little damp, right? So how do you think you get air spaces? It says there's air in the pore spaces in the top layer of soil. How do you think they get there?
This come from the ground.
It could, yeah.
Weathering.
Hmm?
Weathering of some sort.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, it can be because things are falling. It can, falling to the ground and more soil is being made and it's compacting and there's air in there. It could be coming up. How about, can you think of an animal that everybody likes in their garden that would be really helpful in putting air into the soil?
Squirrels,
No, people like them in their garden. They have no legs. What am I thinking of?
snakes.
Worms. Yes, worms. There you go. Okay, so worms, earthworms, they go in there and they,
Asking about that.
yeah, no, squirrels. They go in there and they churn up the soil and they mix air in, and that's good for your plants. So everything you plant is pretty much in this unsaturated zone, okay? Then you've got the water table. The water table is the boundary between your regular unsaturated soil that you're working in and where you've got just all water, like an aquifer or very, very, very damp water.
Water.
Yeah, mostly water, or at least water filling up all the spaces. So it may not be like you dig and then there's a lake underground. It may just be like you dig and all the spaces between the soil are filled with totally water, not air, right? So if you think about it, water table differs in different areas. So here in Georgia, you could dig a good way down before you're going to find the water table. But where I'm from in Virginia Beach, I was born and raised right near the ocean. So do you think our water table is high or low? Yeah, really high. So high, in fact, that you could dig to be planting something like a tree. You got a little tree for your yard or whatever. It's just water, like you're digging and it's really wet. Whoop. Every time I dig, the hole fills up with water. But crazier than that, so my dad's a mechanic and he has pits in his shop, these big rectangular holes that he walks down into, and they're about this tall. You get down under them. They drive cars up on the racks so you can work underneath the car. Sometimes now you might see places that have a lift. You drive and they put your car on a hydraulic lift, right? But he has pits. And the problem with making pits in Virginia Beach is you got to dig below the water table. So every time you would build a pit, you'd have to put in a water pump for like 6 months just to keep pumping and sealing the walls until it finally sealed to the point where no more water leaked in. Because the water table is very high. So here we go. Let's see if we can recognize any of these things based on what we just said. So we've got some zones here. We got a 1 and a 2 and a 3. And then we got this little dude here. So what do we think? What do we think we're seeing here? Anybody want to guess what any of them might be?
I can't hear
The top one's what? Top one's unsaturated. Okay.
the middle is saturated.
Okay. And then what's this pointing to, do you think? This one right here. Can you see it? You think it's pointing water table? All right, so let's see. So this, what they're actually showing, you're right about this being the unsaturated. What they're showing here is infiltration. That's the water coming in. But you're right about this being unsaturated zone at the top, and then your saturated zone at the bottom. And then this is going to be your water table. You guys are absolutely correct. That's right. There's a good little graphic there to show you how it all looks now that we've discussed it. So now you can see it with your eyes instead of just your brains. So this is cool. It's going to show you how caves form. Have you ever thought about how caves form? Sometimes, yeah, usually. But what kind? Let me turn this up. This is about the prettiest cave in Vietnam. I know.
Searching for agarwood alone in the forest, he became lost, but soon he stumbled upon a massive rift in the limestone mountainside. Out from the opening came billows of moments, the roar of rushing water could be heard, and a strong, constant gust of wind blew out from between the rocks. For fear of the unknown, Hokan explored no deeper than the entrance to the cave. 15 years go by until in 2006, Hokan speaks with two members of the British Cave Research Association, Howard and Deb Limber, who traveled to Vietnam to discover new caves. Intrigued by Hokan's description, they seek him out and urge him to lead them to do it. But after many failed attempts, Hokan could not rediscover what he had found by mistake all those years ago. It's not until 2009 that by pure chance, Hokan finds himself back at the Indians of the cave while on another hunt for wood.
I see this on
He searched for a minute
Yeah.
for its exact location and contacted the Limberts immediately.
He
They
thinks
would
it's a new
return
world.
to Vietnam as fast as possible, and together with Hokan and a team of other explorers, they take man's first steps into the massive cavern in the mountains. It's uncovered that the cave runs 9 kilometers deep into the earth, with some parts reaching 200 meters high and 150 meters wide.
Look how big that is. It's our tents.
747 inside.
It's just a lab.
Hokan's discovery, the largest cave on Earth by volume, coming in at over twice the size of the next largest cave. In total, there's around 38.5 million cubic meters of empty space within this cave. That's nearly the same amount of space as the Grand Canyon, all hollowed out beneath the Annamite Mountains. But this isn't the Grand Canyon. This is Hammerstone. Translated very roughly into English, the name comes out as Cave of the Mountain River. This name comes from the fact that a stream of water pours out from the entrance of the cave, a river seemingly coming from within the mountain itself. Miles deep into the cave, jungles can be found inside its two gold mines, which are basically breaks in the roof of the cave.
Look at that.
By sinkholes, allowing sunlight to shine deep inside the earth. Exploring deeper inside this cave, you can find stalagmites that measure up to 80 meters tall. Some of the tallest
Those are
ever discovered.
Huge.
Even deeper, and you can discover large cave pearls, some the size of baseballs, an occurrence so rare that you probably didn't even know cave pearls were a thing. Knowing all this, I think it's safe to say Hang Sung Jung is not only a spectacular cave, but also one of the most impressive sites on the planet. How exactly the caves like this formed in the first place? Well, to understand this process, we actually need to start in the ocean. You see, sea creatures like crabs and corals, as well as tons of microscopic organisms, use the minerals dissolved in the ocean water to build their shells. When they die, their shells are left empty and fall to the ocean floor. Once this happens a few trillion more times, the shells will begin to build up into a layer. Over time, this layer of shells gets buried and buried and buried until it's under so much pressure that it becomes a single solid rock. We call this rock limestone. You've probably heard about it before, and you've definitely seen it. It's a grayish white rock found in many cliffs and mountains. Then, depending on plate tectonics, this limestone might get pushed above the sea, and that's how we get limestone on dry land in the mountains. If you're curious, this is what limestone looks like under a microscope. You can still see some of the skeletons of long dead sea creatures. Cool, right? Okay, so next we need to know what limestone is. Just a few seconds ago, I explained that sea creatures take minerals from the oceans to build their shells, and the primary material they do this with is called calcium carbonate. This is a really good building material because it's strong and it's readily available in the ocean and can dissolve easily in ocean water. So the materials get recycled and used by new organisms. That's important. Remember that. Limestone dissolves even in weak acids. Lastly, we need to know how the rain interacts with the atmosphere and the soil. This will all make sense in just a second. So we all know how rain is made, but for anyone who missed that day in school, water from the ocean evaporates and maybe some water from trees evapotranspirates. Then this water collects and floats into areas of low pressures and low temperatures and condenses to become clouds. If this moist air becomes too saturated with water, some of it will precipitate out and fall to the earth. That's what rain is. But before that happens, while still in the clouds, the water molecules interact with the gases in the atmosphere. Some of the water will come in contact with carbon dioxide, and sometimes when they crash together with carbonic acid, a weak acid, but still an acid. Then when this slightly acidic rain falls to the earth and travels through the soil, it can pick up even more acids on the way down. Eventually, this acidic water sinks to the water table and becomes part of the groundwater. If this happens where there's a layer of limestone in the soil, this slightly acidic groundwater can eat away and dissolve it until a cavity in the earth is created, because again, limestone dissolves easily
Wait,
even
you
in
can't
weak acids. This process can
Hang on,
actually
wait till I
be
finish.
remarkably
You can't
fast in
deep down water
geologic
into
times.
acid.
Hong Song Doong,
It's
for
not enough
example,
to hurt
is only
you.
roughly 3 million years old. That's younger than the famous Australopithecus fossil and human ancestor Lucy, which is 3.2 million years old. Then
Mhm.
fissures, imperfections, and sinkholes can create entrances to these hollow tubes beneath the ground. And when they do, you have a cave. If the limestone is on the surface, it can instead be carved into cliffs and other strange and unique shapes. This type of landscape is called karst topography. And the more rainfall an area gets, the more karst topography can form, and the greater the number of caves and sinkholes there will likely be. That's why Howard and Deb Lindbergh were in rainy Vietnam looking for caves in the first place. And that's also why it's no surprise that Hang Sung Doong is where it is, one of the wettest regions in the world. Now here's a rough map of where karst topography is to be found on Earth. You can see one of the biggest regions of karst topography is here in southeastern Asia, right where Hang Sung Doong is to be found. In this area, you'll also find other strange karst formations, like these famous mountains in China. Then over here in the United States, perhaps the second biggest patch of karst features, and it's in this area that you'll find more famous caves like Mammoth Cave in Kentucky, which is the longest cave on Earth, at over 650 kilometers long. But let's go back to how caves form. Depending on the size and shape of the limestone layer, a few different types of caves can be created, but almost always a cave will have an entrance point where water can seep in, called a swallow, and a point where the water empties out, a spring. In the case of Hang Sung Doong, the spring is actually what we consider as the entrance, and the swallows would be the two holes in the cave ceiling caused by sinkholes. And that's essentially it. There are two things I should know before ending, however. First, while limestone is the most common rock type for caves to form in, any rock that dissolves in weak acids will form caves over time. So deposits of rocks like dolomite, gypsum, and even marble can become caves given enough time. But limestone is by far the most common. Second, this is how solution caves are made, and there are actually a few more types of cave, and each one forms in a different way. But solution caves are the most regularly occurring cave type, so I figured that would be the focus of this video. If you want to see another video on how any of the more rare cave types form, maybe give this video a like and subscribe. Oh, and I have a Twitter now, so if anyone's interested.
Yeah, we don't need your Twitter. So you get this water, goes to the air, picks up molecules that make it slightly acidic. Yeah, makes carbonic acid that's very weak. It sinks in, it dissolves the bedrock that's limestone, and then you get a cave. So now we talk about how you get water up from underground. So we talked about how aquifers are the water underground. Now, how do you get it up?
Pumps.
Yeah. So what's an underground layer of rock or pieces of rock that contain water? What do we call it? An aquifer, right? Okay. So it can be very small or very, very large. You remember that little shot of what? Oh, that little image of the United States that he showed on the map with the karst topography in that red section? That's kind of where that big aquifer is I was talking about. That's right in the middle of the country.
It's what some in Georgia, right? It's just like
Aquifers? Yeah, of course. Mhm.
like the karst
Karst topography. Yeah, we have a little bit. Yeah, it's just an area that lets you know that there's lots of limestone. There tend to be caves. There tend to be sinkholes. So you have an idea what's up. So people can obtain what from an aquifer? What do we get from an aquifer?
Water.
Yeah, groundwater particular. And how do we do that? By drilling what?
A hole.
What do we call that hole? What do you call a hole that gets water out of the ground?
Oh well.
A well, right? And you dig that well, and the well has to go below the water table. So this is important to know. When you're using a well, that's why Eureka's there. You're using a well, you've gone below the water table, so you've gone through your unsaturated zone, through the water table into your saturated zone, which is your aquifer typically, and that's how you're going to get water out. If there's no aquifer there and you just kind of go down into a saturated zone, you can get some water, but it tends to be the kind of water that's like
Muddy.
yeah, and you have to let it settle before you can drink it, because all the sediment in it.
Wait.
What?
I've heard the word aquifer before. Aqua means water and fer means carry. So
There you go.
carrying water.
Carrying water, very good. So we break down words a lot. So that's a very good thing to do. You've already done that in your head. That's perfect.
I've seen that in my book before.
There you go. There you go.
A book about Latin stems.
Oh, okay. Very cool. So what do you think you call a natural discharge? Discharge is like a release of groundwater. It can be
Stream,
almost, it could be a trickle.
spring,
A spring, that's what we're looking for, a spring. Okay, so a spring is your natural discharge of water. Okay, we're gonna be talking about hot springs, particularly in lab today. So hot springs they get heated to, some of them are heated to a boiling point and they produce vapor. This is a particular type of hot spring that we're gonna talk about here. So hot springs they can be warm or they can be like boiling, literally. So what do you call the ones that it's a spring, so it's water coming up from the ground, it gets heated so much that it boils and it like explodes out of the ground? Geyser, that's right, that's a geyser. And they get so hot that they just poof out of the ground, and they tend to be near volcanoes because that's where you've got magma that's closer to the surface.
So it gets hot.
And this is how springs are getting heated. They're getting heated, we would say, geothermally by the temperature in the earth.
It said geysers are more common 65 million years ago than now.
That would make sense. Yeah, you need lots of volcanic activity, and that's how you get your geysers. So if you have a tunnel that's drilled past the water table and the tunnel is drawn up and pumped out, it's a well. Do you know what kind of a well we call that? If we have different kinds of wells, do you know what we call that kind of well? The one you think about where you you drill a tunnel down and you pump the water out. Do you know what we call that kind? It's really exciting. It's called an ordinary well. Oh, it's an ordinary well, it's an ordinary well. Now, what do you call the kind where the water is under pressure so it comes pumping out itself? It's pushed out. Not necessarily hot, but it's pushed out. So this is what now? An artesian well. Okay, so if you got an artesian well on your property, aren't you a lucky duck? You don't even have to worry about like pumping it or going down there and using a bucket. It's just going to come popping right up to the surface all on its own.
So the water fountain.
Yeah, kind of like a water fountain. So let me see, how long is this one again? Watch this one, I think, real quick.
How much is it?
This one's only 4 minutes, and then we have to wrap up our lesson.
There are more than 300 geysers in the park. The most
This
famous.
is Yellowstone.
Hey, how's it going? Park geologist Hank Kessler is an expert on all these hotspots.
Coupons?
Super volcano. So that drives.
Yo, free coupons.
Yeah, I know.
Common for people to come to Yellowstone and ask, where's the volcano? Because many people think of a volcano with very steep sides and then a crater in the
Why
center.
would the volcano
And the
collapse
Yellowstone
after?
volcano is a very different type of volcano.
At 55 miles long and 20 miles wide, this super volcano is underground. That's more than 1,100 square miles of magma. Super hot liquid rock simmering beneath the Earth's surface. There have been 3 massive eruptions in the past 2 million years. Another massive eruption could wipe out parts of the United States and permanently change the Earth's climate. But Hank says he's not worried.
We don't know as scientists whether there will ever be another super eruption of the Yellowstone volcano. But the eruptions that are more likely to occur would be much more localized and would not be something that would affect the entire world.
So we should be safe for the time being, at least for a couple days here, you know. So.
Well, I have no death threat and I have no plans to leave.
The incredible heat and pressure of the supervolcano powers 4 different types of geothermal features in the park: geysers, hot springs, mud pots, and steam vents. One of the first things you notice at Upper Geyser Basin is a certain perfume to the air. You left rotten eggs in your pocket again, didn't you? Whew. So when you're around these geysers, it kind of smells like rotten eggs would. But it's actually volcanic gases, one of them being sulfur. You can smell it for miles. Call me crazy, but when I smell rotten eggs, I think of Yellowstone. Oh man! When rainwater seeps through the ground and reaches the hot volcanic rocks below the surface, it begins to boil. Superheated water wants to expand, and so that pressure forces the water back up to the surface. It's kind of cool. You can see the smaller one that's just bubbling and just churning up all of this steam. Oh yeah, somebody just cranked up the jets on the old hot tub.
You're standing.
Do you see all the scat and everything around that? It's everywhere. This is Scallop Spring. Bison will congregate around the spring to stay warm during the harsh winters. But sometimes they get too close. One of the more deadly geysers they have here at Yellowstone. See how it's like dug into the ground? Animals get too close, they break through the snow and the ice, and it's not a good result.
Hmm.
The Grand Prismatic Spring in the Midway Geyser Basin is the largest hot spring in the US and arguably the most awesome. The colorful rings surrounding this massive spring are caused by bacteria that thrive on the
Beautiful.
rich minerals in the pool. The center is too hot to support life, but the edges are cooler and downright intense.
Look at that, dude. You've got red, yellow, orange, green, and blue.
That is unbelievable. It's a pretty looking bacteria, I gotta say.
Mhm.
Old Faithful is one of the park's biggest geysers, and it erupts 130 feet into the air on average. Hundreds of people gather around it every 45 to 90 minutes to watch the show.
We're gonna try to see Old Faithful from the top at observation point.
The half-mile hike will give us a panoramic view, 250 feet above the base. Old Faithful, new view.
So we've got about 10 minutes till Old Faithful goes off.
10 minutes?
We should probably run.
Running uphill.
All right. This is the spot. Hey, everybody, thanks for watching.
That's cool, right?
Questions or comments that you
So we've got about, let me see, we've got about 6 more minutes. So let me,
Steam vents and the geysers.
I think steam vents don't actually have the water come all the way out, right? And then the geysers have the water actually come out, I think. I'm pretty sure. I'd have to double check it. So how do we use our freshwater resources? We can whip through this pretty quickly. So here are ways people use water. Well, obviously we use it for irrigation, for farming. That's one of the biggest uses is for plants, irrigation for farming. And then we use it for, washing stuff, cleaning stuff, drinking, doing our laundry, getting showers. Right here is a little image of how we use our fresh water. So thermoelectric power is actually the biggest one. So we use fresh water to produce power from, exactly. So hydroelectric is like using the flow of the water, and thermoelectric is like when you heat the water up and then you use that to produce electricity. Kind of like a gigantic radiator system. And then irrigation, that's our second biggest, like I was saying, all the farming and agriculture, and then public supply. This is what we drink. Self-supply industry, and then all these little things. It says aquaculture, mining, and self-supplied domestic.
Wait, so people use so people drink less water so people use less water to drink than they use for thermal.
Oh yeah, way less. Way less. So how do we conserve water? Well, obviously you guys probably have heard your parents tell you to turn the water off more than once in your life, I'm sure.
More than 2 million.
More than 2 million times, really, yeah. Like, when you're brushing your teeth, you shouldn't just leave the water running. I don't understand why anybody would do that. Yeah. And there's something in here that says use gray water. Okay, so gray water is your relatively clean water that's from bathrooms, sinks, and showers and things like that. And here our gray water just goes away in our sewer system, right? But if you live on, like say you have a little self-sufficient farm and you're off the grid, that may be the kind of household that collects gray water, and then they use it for watering outside or maybe washing things outside. You obviously don't want like a ton of soap or whatever in it. That would not be good for your plants or your garden, but certainly some things you can do. Take short showers. My husband grew up with what his dad called Navy showers, because y'all know my father-in-law was in the Navy, but Navy showers, when you turn the water on and get wet, turn the water off, soap yourself up while you're freezing cold because there's no water, and turn the water back on, which sounds miserable to me. And yeah, obviously all these other things like tightening your faucets, make sure they're not leaking. So water pollution, I'm just going to go through these quickly for you. So water pollution, you've got different areas where water pollution is going to come from, and we call some of those non-point source and some of those point source. Your non-point source is basically where runoff is involved or where percolation and filtration is involved. What now? What did you say? Pollution, yeah, that's what we're saying. So a point source would be like it pours directly into the river. Like some factories have waste that pour directly into a river. That's point source. But non-point source would be, runoff from agriculture, runoff from city streets,
It just goes in the air and just-
Yes, water that has percolated down into the ground and then made its way underground into the water source, but that water maybe not necessarily perfectly clean. So water for drinking can be obtained from wells. So what we want to talk about with drinking water is water quality. So with water quality, it's just like air quality. They measure certain substances within the water, and the government's going to set mandates for concentration. Like you can't have more than so and so much chlorine, and you can't have more than so and so much of this element or that element or this metal or that metal. So the water that you get in your faucet is not 100% pure H2O. It's got other stuff in it, but there's limits on all the things that you can have in it. Interestingly, the government sets limits like that on just about everything. Water, but also like food in factories. There are actually limits on how many like rat parts you can have in
Rat what?
yeah, like rat toes and rat poop. I'm not kidding. They set a limit because they know it's impossible to say you'll have none in a massive factory. How do you ever say you'll have none?
The FDA
So-
is a joke.
There you go. Hang on, Yusuf. Let me get to the end and then we'll ask. So a pH is going to be a measure of how acidic or basic something is, right? What's neutral?
Neutral, like you said.
0 pH.
7. 7 is neutral, right? 7 is neutral. And then usually our water is a little acidic, but not entirely. And then tap water has this issue called hardness. You ever heard of hard water? So hard water is
D2O.
hard water is in areas where you tend to have a lot of limestone deposits, right? And basically it's because some of those chemicals get into the water, and when you run your faucets, those chemicals they stay behind, like they precipitate out of the water and they stay behind in your fixtures, in your shower and your sink. So if you've ever seen like commercials for CLR where they're spraying and all the white stuff comes off the shower, that's lime buildup from hard water. So you don't want water that's very hard, but also soft water is the opposite. And water that's too soft, sometimes it can take you forever to get your shampoo out of your hair, weirdly enough. So I'm going to put this video in your weekly email for you guys to watch, because we don't have time to watch it now because we're about to start our next class. But watch it if you're interested. It's about how scientists are harvesting fog to supply the world's water, which is pretty darn cool, I think. So, yes, ask your question real quick. What's your question?
Down it comes carbonate acid, right?
Carbonic.
Carbonic?
Yep.
So how do you get carbonic acid? When you dig a well, it comes.
It's not very strong acid. I mean, you get way more acid when you drink Coke. So, but if you let it sit on something for a long, long time, it will dissolve it, like limestone. Like Coke will do that too.
You know what's funny?
Coke will dissolve all kinds.
October's almost over, and I feel like it's just begun.
Yeah. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to sit here for a minute about lab, but first I want everybody to have their chance at Tinker Day donuts. So wait till I get all your classmates in. Come on in, Drew. Hello, group of people.
You.
Group of people. Happy Tinker Day. Why are you excited to me? Oh, man. You got yellow. That's close enough. I used to wait for your days. All right, I forget to prepare. I love it. Happy Tinker Day. Coolness. I have my there's a scarf I tied it on like it's a belt and on my shirt. And Drew's like, I have taped pencils to myself because that's as good as it's gonna get today. Awesome. So I know that today we're gonna be missing Lily because she's not feeling well, and then the twins are taking their PSAT, so they're not here. So let's see, we're missing who else? Jack, and who else am I missing? Help me look around. Oh, that's right, the Rodriguez, and then Parker. Okay, I think that's it, right? Or more donuts for you. Yeah, more donuts for you. So I have to admit, I did fail at one thing. I sent my family out to find Krispy Kremes last weekend just in case, and they could not find any, but they found them. So we still have Glazed donuts, so you'll have to forgive the brand. But hey,
Okay.
before you bite your donut, I have to take a picture of everybody squashed together with their donuts in here. Okay, so I will put them out, and y'all can enjoy it. Look at I got 3 dozen Glazed donuts. They're great. So come over here and grab one. And then you're welcome, by the way, throughout lab or whatever, to look at all this stuff, just don't put sticky fingers on the books. All right, so grab you a donut and hold on to it. There's napkins right here. Hold on to it, don't take off. I need to get my second picture. Yeah, more people. So excited. Oh, Drew, can you pass one to Liam? Oh, no, he got it. He can reach over. There you go. Woo-hoo. Popping out your liners. I don't even think Drew bothered to put his in. He knew the first time that's coming. You got long arms. There you go.
Short legs.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's super. Alrighty. Why don't y'all stand over there by the TV where I've got my Tinker Day sign, and then I'll grab a picture of my Tinker Day people. I have to prove to my classmates that I'm not joking. I for real do Tinker Day. It's never happened on a Tuesday, y'all. Never.
This is the first
First
day.
time ever on a Tuesday. All right, squash up in front of the fireplace. Squash up. You can do
Show
it.
us in the front. That's
We've had Tinker Day every year, but never on. Oh, who's here? Wait, somebody's gonna be like, make you wait on your donuts. Jack. Jack,
Jack.
hurry up. They're all waiting on you with donuts.
Hurry up. Donuts.
They can't bite them until you get here. Quick,
Hurry
grab the donut.
I mean, it's scary, okay?
No,
Yeah.
it's a disaster. It's a disaster, I know.
Don't bite into it
It's
yet.
not my fault.
Alrighty, let's see. Squash up together there. There we go. There we go. All my Tinker Day people, hold up your donuts and look very happy about it. Woohoo! It is Donut Tinker Day. I love it. Thank you. All right, now you may get your donuts, and you guys can have a seat right in here because we're going to talk about how we're going to do lab, and then I'm going to turn you loose to do it.
Two more donuts.
No, there's plenty more than two. Y'all can have a second after we've discussed what we're doing.
Num 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 num
No,
num.
we're no. We kept them in the oven. They're exciting.
Jack is
Oh.
at the front for you.
Mitchell, your coins. I'll have for you. And Yusuf, your coins. There you go. All right. Okay, so let me get rid of that. Boom.
Can I open the candy machine now?
No, on your way out. After lab. Okay, so here's what we're doing today. Today's gonna be a little different. We're wrapping up Q4, so we don't have anything that you're gonna have to like write, take home, or worry about. So Q1. Sorry, not Q4.
I was like, man.
I would love for it to be Q4 already, but woo, summer, but no. All right, so what we're gonna do is you guys are gonna, I split you into two groups today. We don't need four. So I'm just gonna kind of chunk you off into two groups, and we are going to research what's a hot spring. Okay, and in Georgia, we have our famous one, which is Warm Springs, Georgia. And you guys are gonna research what famous person spent a lot of time there and why. And some of you might already know. Right? But here's what's gonna make it awesome. What I want you to do is it's almost like a competition between our two groups. I want you to tell me interesting things, obscure things. Don't come up here and say, this is where it's located. Well, I do want you to say, this is where it's located, and this is how long it would take to get there from here, that kind of stuff. And so hung out there, and here's why. But I want you to tell me the most obscure and weird and interesting facts you can find. So we're gonna see which of the two teams can make this the most interesting. So you may have to get into a bit of an internet rabbit hole. Yeah,
They have to be real.
yes,
Darn it. Okay.
yes.
Do we need
Can we
like?
just look up obscure facts about Warm Springs?
I mean, you can, but it has to be about this Warm Springs. Uh-huh.
If we see
Like
it
Warm
on the,
Springs,
on
Georgia.
the website,
Mm-hmm.
how does that
Maybe.
count?
If we see it on the website, is it real? Okay, so,
Do we need to like
If we see it
verify?
on Reddit, can that be like 100% proven, or is
Mhm.
that like?
yeah, good point. So,
It's a fact check on
if you're thinking it's questionable, fact check wise, then present it as such and such website told us, blah, blah, blah. Okay? And for those of you that aren't already logged into the Wi-Fi, I'll put that here for you so that you have it.
Oh yeah.
Because you're gonna want Wi-Fi, and you're gonna have, like I said, we're gonna regroup at 11:40. And here's one thing you have to do. Every person on the team has to speak at least once and say one of the interesting things. Nobody can stand there and be quiet. So the email that you're but you're looking for Otto. Yes, that's okay. Somebody on your team will have a phone, I'm sure. Otto is gonna be I'm gonna make it white in a second. Otto is gonna be that's the Wi-Fi you're looking for, and it's 678-612-5862, which is Jason's phone number.
Slack.
I'm making. That's Jason's phone number, and don't prank him. So
Yo.
he would not be happy with me. And I make it bigger so you can see it too.
Pranking businesses.
Oh my.
Not that I know.
Uh-huh.
Me neither.
No. I actually tried to do that one.
I don't
I actually
either.
tried to do
My
that.
favorite video online is the guy calling Domino's and Papa John's.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, I called them at the same time and put them on the phone with each other. Yeah, that was pretty
It was
awesome.
totally fake because they started arguing, but it was so funny.
It was funny. It was very funny. All right, so here you go. I'm gonna give you, it's like, gonna have about 45, 50 minutes. So we'll regroup at about 11:40, and that'll give you 20 minutes to present and kind of giggle or whatever at each other. So each of you will have, you don't even need 10 minutes to present. This is a chill lab today, because we're wrapping up the first quarter. We're just gonna kind of, right? All right, and then if you wish to go back for a second donut, you may do so, but please make sure that everybody has had a first. Like if anybody's late, make sure they've had a first before you get a second. And don't grab a third. Okay, cool. Don't grab a third unless you've asked me. It's Parker. Hey,
Parker.
So, all right, so here's how I'm gonna divide you up.
Alright.
All right, if you are, let me see, who here is 4.0? I got,
I think, like.
okay, I got one
I
4.0.
don't know which awkward order.
Who's 5.0? There's a 5.0, 5.0, you're 5.0. You're 6? Oh, 6. Okay, I'm gonna put 5 and 6 together, and then 4 and supercalifragilistic, and you go 4. All right, so if you're 4 or supercalifragilistic,
Wait, sorry.
Group up.
Oh, never mind.
you're fine. Group up and make your plan. And if you're 5 or 6,
Donut.
group up and make your plan. All right, and I think Miss Marcy's here to chat with me for a minute.
So 4 and super.
I'm gonna, no, it's not. I'll get it after.
Okay.
Get that.
Crispy crab. Oh, not crispy crab.
It's donuts. Wait.
Where are we sitting?
Somewhere.
This chair. Is my. Are we sitting in this chair?
Why?
This one, cause it's mine. So,
Is it yours now?
it is now, so, didn't you?
What?
You said, oh, we have to find a sort back about,
It's right there.
Okay, if I have.
Make it interesting.
look at all my stickers.
Look at that. Fun stuff.
Mobile phone never failed me. Oh my gosh, y'all have computers.
Okay, you'll have.
Right, what do you think?
No, what?
So Drew, where's your group?
I'm pretty sure you'll put it down.
He's
You're up
not
here, right?
He's not in the lab yet, so you can.
Yes, I know.
He's gonna be with you. He's gonna be, you're with this group over here.
Ah, okay. Incognito mode. Should I exit incognito mode? Should I need to?
Yes.
Are you in the CIA?
No, I'm just gonna stay in incognito mode.
If you're in the CIA, then never understand.
What are we gonna Google? Let's see.
Alright.
Keep going on, man.
Oh, I didn't.
Okay, well, not.
No, I don't want one. James, no.
Out of the way, James.
No, you can that in the, you can change. Look at this, James, if you are. Oh, they before, it's random actually, but. You had a lot of turn. There you go.
To be honest, I think this one sounds good satisfying. Okay, so the area codes are.
Area code?
Yeah, the area code is for Warm Springs, Georgia, 607 and 760.
I just put a warm. Wait, are you looking for the city
in Mayweather County, Georgia?
You tell me, you do it. I'm not telling you guys.
I don't know, is this like a national park or?
Oh,
It's a big thing. You'll find it. It's pretty obvious when you find it.
I found something.